as I heard you this morning, and I want to dive right into this, right?
Yeah.
It's Coop.
Coop,
right?
yeah.
So first and foremost, before we dive into this, man, I will tell you how excited I am because I want to get to why that's a nickname. I really appreciate the swag. Like, I will wear this. I will wear this. I got pens which I use often. You know, I'll switch out today.
Yeah.
For you, the Pure Country 91.7 swag. So I really, I'm grateful for that, man. That was really nice to use.
You're welcome. Did you notice the color changing cup?
It changes color.
It changes color. So it's actually turned blue right now because it's cooler. So when it gets warmer, it'll be back to clear. But I know.
That's insane.
Magic.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's cool. No, honestly, it's fun to.
Thank you.
It's kind of weird to be on the opposite end of the interviewing process because this is usually I'm on your side of the table.
That's awesome.
But I still had to do the radio thing and bring some swag along. So. But
I love it, man.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, thank you.
Yeah.
This is crazy, like seeing a voice to a face. It's awesome. But I'm wondering, before we dive into kind of who you are, your upbringing, trials, tribulations, and stuff, tell us kind of where did Coop come from? First of all, the nickname. Was it just simple with the last name and stuff?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you listen to Pure Country Mornings, when I do the news in the morning, you hear me introduce myself as Bryan Cooper, obviously.
Yeah.
That's my name. And, man, right back my first radio job, I started working in radio in North Bay, actually. It wasn't here in Sudbury. It started in North Bay, 2010. And I was brand new in the industry, brand new on the air. Everything was new. I had my first ever radio job. And honestly, people in the building, they called me just Cooper. It was just Cooper. And then slowly, people just started calling me Coop. It just kind of naturally happened. And kind of fast forward to moving here to Sudbury. Honestly, and I mean, my time at 91.7, the same thing kind of happened with my last name. Bryan Cooper on the air, obviously. And then people just started naturally calling me Coop, and that just kind of became a thing. And then when I took my first gig doing Pure Country Mornings a few years back with Trinette, who's no longer in Sudbury, that's where kind of like the Coop thing really kind of started. And really, I don't want to use the word branded, but that's just kind of where Coop. And honestly, I feel like majority of people know me as Coop now in Sudbury. And so honestly, it's actually a very simple story. It's just a shortened form of my last name, and that's just what I tell people. Like, honestly, majority of people know me as Coop. And actually, just a couple days ago, somebody said, what did they say? They said, for some reason, I was surprised that you had a first name.
Like the Cher or the Madonna, the Madonna effect.
I was like, well, I mean, my last name's Cooper, Bryan Cooper, but that's where Coop comes from. So, yeah,
amazing.
It's not that exciting, but it's but that's kind of the short form version of the story.
It's funny. I was telling they're like, oh, who you got coming on this week? And I was like, oh, Bryan Cooper. And they're like, who's
that?
Yeah, I was like, oh, Coop from Pure Country. Oh, cool. Like it was an interesting thing to see, right?
Yeah.
It was like the same person, same voice, same and everything.
Yeah.
Just interesting thing to be known that way. But take us through, kind of back us up to leaving post-secondary, transition life from high school, stuff like that. What was that transition period like in your life? And then we'll full circle.
Yeah, man. Yeah, high school actually. High school started off really rough, actually, for me.
Oh, really?
I don't mind sharing. I really don't. It's a big part of my life. Like grade 9 and 10 were awful. it was an awful couple of years for me. Grade 9 and 10, like. I was actually, it's bizarre. Even my mom now will say, like, I can't believe you work in the broadcasting industry, because as a kid and growing up, even in high school, I was like the quiet guy.
Yeah.
Super quiet. I didn't really have any friends at all. I remember very, very vividly, very, very clearly, grade 9, grade 10 at lunch hour. At lunchtime, I would just walk the halls at lunchtime because I wanted to look like I had somewhere to be. Because I didn't have anyone to hang out with, and I know it's such a sad story, but it's very true. And then I really came out of my shell when I started to kind of form a group of friends. The second half of grade 11 and grade 12 obviously was a much better year, and really came out of my shell. And it was interesting when I went to Huntsville High School. I grew up in the Muskoka area.
Nice.
I'm not from Sudbury, but grew
Beautiful
up in the Muskoka.
Area,
It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Cottage country, as they call it.
Yes.
Huntsville High School. Speaking with guidance counselors back then, it wasn't like an intense pressure, but it was. They always would ask you, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want to get into? And I was one of those kids. I just didn't know.
Yeah, I have no idea what I like.
I had no idea. I had kind of random ambitions or random things that would come into my mind, but nothing really kind of held on so very much. And it was, man, was that grade 11? I think it was grade 11. I did an internship in high school, and it was actually my stepbrother. I will always give him credit. And we were talking about internships, and he said, or co-op, I guess in high school is what it's called. And he said, dude, why don't you do a co-op at a radio station? And I was like, actually, you know what? That sounds kind of fun. And he said, math isn't really your thing. He's like, I know you're really good with words, you're good with writing, all that kind of stuff. And he said, and you like people. And he said, why don't you give it a shot? And worst case scenario, you don't like it. And then that's what co-op is great for. In high school, internships are awesome for, right?
You get a full look in depth into what it is. Yeah.
That's right. And so I ended up doing a half a year doing a full-on co-op at the locally owned radio station in Huntsville. It was called More FM, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called, 105.5 More FM.
Amazing.
It has now since become a Moose radio station, I think. But at the time, it was locally owned, and it was so sweet because they were locally owned. They let me do anything. They let me try anything. They let me on the air. They sent me out with their
grade 11.
Yeah. I was high school. They sent me out with their street team vehicles. And you know what? I really got a full taste of radio kind of in a nutshell. And so that really kind of put the interest, the bit of the bug in my mind.
Awesome.
And so high school eventually was done. But I'm also a sports guy, like big time hockey guy. And I was thinking, maybe sports journalism will be kind of where will be kind of the direction I go in the broadcasting world. And I had planned to go back to school. I had planned to go to school right after high school, taking a break. And long story short, sports journalism just was not for me. And it's actually more of a side story, which I won't get into for the sake of time, but I was enrolled in 2 different schools, post-secondary schools at one point.
What?
Not at the same time.
Okay.
One, then the other.
I
ended up withdrawing for both of them back to back, like after high school was done, because it just was not, when you get a gut feeling about something? That was exactly the situation. I had this gut feeling that this is not where I need to be.
Same program, 2 different schools.
2 different programs, 2 different schools.
Amazing.
And and it was a really crazy situation, really crazy time in my life. But it also forced me to kind of really evaluate, what do I want to do? And then I was kind of confused. I was stumped. And through that time, obviously high school was well done after that point. And, eventually college. I did 2 years at Canadore College, the radio broadcasting program there. And eventually I had this diploma, and I was like, I got to give it a shot at least, right? And so I did. I gave radio broadcasting a shot. And put some demos out and such, and eventually got my first job at North Bay. I may have got my details actually flipped around. It's interesting because I haven't thought about my that time frame in a long time, but
how it pieces together.
And so, but either way, I know for sure that I was stumped, and I was like, man, what do I do? And so that's anyways. I started in the radio, and I just loved it. So. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. No, it did for sure. I appreciate it. Yeah. There's circling back a bit before we come back to the radio stuff. I want to think about what do you think could have been done differently? Maybe not from you, or what in general would you fix if you could wave a magic wand in that time period of high school of not knowing what you were going to do? Like if you can grant one wish, we're going to fix it. How would you maybe fix it? Just provide more options of co-ops and internships sooner? Or maybe not even for you, but taking yours as an example to learn from. Yeah.
Well, and I think perfect world, obviously. I would have loved to have the option even in high school to learn more about that kind of industry, like the broadcasting industry. It's obviously more of a post-secondary program type thing too.
Of course.
But if I can go back in time, I'm really happy that I did that internship. And I will always say good things about internships because it gives you, like you said, a full taste into whatever industry you might be interested in. And you know what? It could be the opposite. You say, you know what, this is not at all what I thought it was, or it's not at all interesting to me. But to wave that magic wand, I would say, maybe seize more of those opportunities if I could. And kind of, if I could go back in time, break out of my shell earlier than I did. But I am where I am now, and no regrets, obviously.
Nice.
And everything leads to where we are now. So it's a crazy journey, but
amazing. Looking forward now to that time frame in the demos. How did you go about structuring your demos? And was it the same as with like, oh, I have a resume, I'm going to hand it out? Same idea with the demos?
Yeah, essentially. So again, I was at that time in my life where I was like, I just did not know, I didn't know what direction to go. And so I was like, you know what, I've got this radio broadcasting diploma. I did really well, by the way, in the radio broadcasting program. I loved every single minute of it. And so I had these demos that I had created in college, and that was all I had. That was it. I mean, they trained us that way as well, right? They said, this is what you will need to go apply for your first jobs in radio. And so I loved the radio broadcasting program at Canada or North Bay. It was great. Our professors were wonderful. And essentially, it was quite simply as I was just contacting radio stations left, right, and center, and if I was close to them in proximity, actually driving to them, dropping in face-to-face conversations, saying, here's a demo on a CD.
Oh man!
If people remember what CD is, and say, here's my demo on a CD, and here's my resume, and I'm just trying to basically break my way into the industry, and I did that a bunch. I had a bunch of interviews, and eventually, it was Rogers Radio in North Bay. They gave me a call and they said, hey, we have a part-time opportunity. It's one of those jack-of-all-trades jobs, but I was more than willing to go for it. And North Bay wasn't that far from my hometown either. It's about an hour from Huntsville, so went for it. And that's how I got in.
Amazing. How did you structure those demos? Like, what were you given? Like, hey, step 1, 2, 3. These are the key components of how you make a successful demo. What goes into creating one?
Well, I think, and again,
just clipping it and putting it out.
Like and I'm in college at this point too, right? So my knowledge is very, very limited, and I'm just kind of rolling with the guidance that my professors at the time had kind of given me, and they really encouraged me. Like, they want a glimpse of you. They need a glimpse of you in these demos. Don't project yourself as something that you are not,
bro, because
that is huge.
That's such good advice.
Yeah, do not project yourself as something that you're not, because especially in this day and age, and it's a skill, and it's a little tidbit which I'm really thankful for now, of being genuine and being yourself, is especially in the radio industry, people appreciate it more than you think. And even back then, and I mean, that was 16 years ago, I think, for me, or something, college. They said, these demos are an opportunity for you to give a glimpse as to who you are, and also what you sound like on the air too, because that's a big factor when you work in broadcasting. And it gives a little sense of, like, some of your skills too, a little bit of production in there too. So I think it was a mix of like doing regular talk breaks of some crazy random stuff, but also like my own produced commercial of whatever it might be.
Nice.
And then a few other things just to kind of give it some sizzle. Nothing too long, because you don't want to bore the people that are looking at your stuff, but at the time, as I'm trying to break into the industry, I'm trying to give a little glimpse as to who I am, what I sound like, what I could sound like, and that was exactly. Actually, I still have those demos.
Nice,
which is crazy. Yeah, they're stashed somewhere at home.
Let's go. If you come across them, I do want to listen.
Yeah, I can't listen to it without.
I won't
cringing.
share it, but I definitely will.
Oh man,
I'll enjoy it for sure.
So, but it's all they're all stepping stones, right? And that's, as I said, that has led to where I am now. So.
I want to tip the cap to our mutual friend who pointed out before, Chris Cacchiotti, specifically because the same advice that you were given was, I hosted an event in town, 5 Cent City, this summer. Well, one of them. I was one of the hosts. Like, I was in between transitions with stuff, and I would introduce speakers to who would do their speeches and do their poems and so on and so forth, and other people would MC the hip hop, and other people would MC the basketball stuff. Anyways, so I was well, nervous enough. A bunch of people there, and the energy's high, and you got to kind of come in. You're not. I remember I was introducing Chris, and I was like going over. I was like, "How do you want to be introduced?" And I'm like trying to go off memory. I kind of want to read, so I'm like trying to memorize something that I'm learning, and then I'm gonna go out and memorize it while also being nervous to go bring them up. A lot going on, very stressful, and I was like, he's like, "Can I offer you some advice?" I was like, dude, anything, whatever, I'll take it if it makes this a bit easier. And he's like, be yourself. He's like, when I was starting hosting the 5, I was trying to picture in my head, as you said, an image of what people might want to see or out of an in-game host. And then I ended up I was feeling really uncomfortable. I had a lot more anxiety, and it always felt weird and cringy, and you know, hair on your back stick up, and you're like, man, what is going on? Why isn't? And he's like, if you just be yourself, and you don't worry about all that trying to be something, it's a lot easier to actually be yourself than it is to try to be somebody like you're not.
Absolutely.
Right? Way easier. So that advice I want to like bring to light what he did in that moment for me, because that it was like, oh, why is there a weight lifted off my shoulders? Oh, because I'm going in trying to be like this other guy who was just on. It's like, well, he's setting the tone for the hip hop event, not the people bringing out to speaker on mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
The requirement's different from the host. So me trying to go out like, yo, what's up? We're all going to hear about depression now. It doesn't really fit, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool that you got that advice that young.
Yeah, well, and honestly, it took me, oh man, because I got my first radio job in North Bay was 2010. 2010. So we were 14 years ago, right? My math is awful, but and honestly, you know, I was a newcomer into the radio industry, and kind of fast forward a little bit. Yeah. Like what you were just saying, I had this image in my brain, and because it's radio, I had this sound in my brain of what I needed to sound like as a radio announcer, a radio personality, if you will. Yeah. I had this. What I thought I needed to sound like. I thought I needed to be like super high energy and like,
what's up, guys?
And you know what? Years ago, as I learned in radio, there was a time and a place for that, because that's the way radio was. They you know, they called it Ronnie Radio, right?
Right.
Like, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? And there was a time and a place for that. But now,
that was a good voice.
Yeah.
Good impression. Let's just slide that in there.
Thank you. But now, like I had mentioned, being genuine and being yourself. So how you and I are talking right now, when you listen to Pure Country Mornings, I should sound no different. Like this should be exactly what you hear when you turn on 91.7 on weekday mornings. And it took me a while to learn that. It did. And it actually took one of my managers, his name was Brad, actually at 91.7 when I first started there. And I was doing the afternoon show. I hadn't even got to the morning show yet. And he sat me down, and if I can give any more advice, especially in the radio industry, is like, air checks are amazing. Air checks are awesome, and it's basically a time to sit down, listen to a portion of, you know, yourself on the air, and I do this with some of my staff at the station too. Is like, sit down, we listen to a portion of the breaks. It's not about negativity; it's about constructive criticism. Of like, hey, these are things where you're doing awesome. This is awesome. This is great. This is great. But hey, here's a couple things which maybe don't do this again, or a couple things which maybe we could change up. You know, all in light of wanting to be better and trying to grow. Yeah. And in that meeting with him, with Brad, I'll never forget that conversation. And he played a clip back of me on the air. Oh. And it was a break that I had done, and he said, "We're gonna listen to it again." And he played it a second time, and then he played it a third time.
A break.
And he said, "Does that sound like you?" Yeah. And I said, "No." And he said, "Exactly. So stop doing that." He said, how you're talking to me right now is how you should be presenting yourself on the air, because that is you. And he said, that is not you. And so that was such a massive light bulb moment for me of be myself.
Real hard, concrete example right in front of you.
And it was good. It was like a reality check, but also that was a turning point for me of like, I don't need to try and be someone that I'm not. When I'm on the air, and who I am, you know, there might be some people who aren't a fan, or for whatever reasons, and that's okay. I have to be okay with that too. But I know at the end of the day that I'm being myself, because it is exhausting. If you're trying to be someone that you're not, it is draining. It is exhausting. Very tough in all the craziest ways. And so that was a huge lesson for me as well early on, which I'm super grateful for. But
do you remember, like, what's a break? Like, what was, like, do you have that example? Do you remember what it was? Like, that experience?
Like the one that he played for me?
Yeah, like, do you remember the example he gave?
I don't remember exactly what it was I was talking about. It was probably a story I was sharing, some wonky story or something. Yeah. But either way, I do remember the way I was presenting the story was, like, crazy high energy, and I was, like, like, hyper. Yeah. And just, not yelling, but just crazy high energy that was almost too much. Like, it was overkill. Yeah. I don't remember the actual what I was talking about. It was probably some story of some sort, but I do remember that of like, no, that's not me. Like, that's not me. I've got energy, I know, but what I just heard is not the natural me. That's not the natural me. And that was a turning point for me. That was huge.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't need to be that. I just need to be this.
Yeah.
I need to be who I am. And when people listen to me on the air, and when people talk to me in the public and out in the community, there should be no difference.
Right. I should be able to close my eyes and hear the same voice
Absolutely.
every time.
Absolutely. And so it is funny because I don't mind saying it every once in a while. I know other radio people too. It's like a pet peeve almost of mine. When people say, "Can you use a radio voice?"
People say that to you?
People say it all
No
the time.
way.
Yeah, and
You're just like, okay, and then you start talking normally.
exactly. And so that's like one of
That's
my
awesome.
my long lasting pet peeves is when people say, "Can you use your radio voice?" I'm like, this is my radio voice. I'm just talking. I'm a normal human talking, and I just happen to talk into a microphone. So yeah, it's funny.
Amazing, man. Oh wow. So that was in like the beginning of what year was it? Like, sorry, let's go from North Bay to Sudbury.
Yeah, so I worked for about 2.5 years,
Nice.
Rogers Radio
Sick.
in North Bay, and I was doing everything. I was swing announcing, so I was like filling in wherever I could.
Oh wow.
I was board opping. I was setting up live on locations for announcers.
Oh, wow.
I was
Yeah.
also doing a promotions coordinator, so I did behind the scenes stuff, setting up
Everything.
contests. I did web updating, basically everything, and some. I would take the vehicles for cleanings, like all of that kind of stuff. I did
Everything,
all
yeah.
of that, and it was a great job. I worked with amazing people. But it got to a point where I was working a lot of hours, and I was just looking for a new challenge and looking to kind of, for lack of a better word, take a step up
For sure.
a little bit. And so I was in North Bay at this point in time, and at the time, my now wife and I we were dating,
Nice.
and and it was interesting because. It's actually a crazy part of my story, but what brought me here, and I don't mind sharing. So
Yeah,
so
appreciate
I am a Christian,
Yeah.
and I don't mind sharing that at all. And at the time, my wife had said to me, she said, what are your my girlfriend at the time, I guess you could say, she said, what are your what are your dreams and your aspirations and your goals? Like,
Great question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what do you want to
Heavy.
what do you want to achieve? Like, what do you want to go for? And I was like, I don't really know. And I kind of thought about it for a couple of weeks, and I it was, I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks later, I had a call from a guy at the Christian radio station, which actually broadcasts around Northern Ontario. And he said, hey, and I knew him already because I also worked with him at Rogers Radio in North Bay.
Go.
And he said, we have this opening for a morning show in Sudbury. And what was crazy about that was I had actually thought to myself, you know what, like growing up in a Christian home, like my grandfather was a minister for his entire life, literally.
Amazing, yeah.
Until he was a minister until literally the day he died.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just makes sense that I would do morning show on Christian radio. And then it was literally 3 weeks later, I had a call from that station, and I was also looking for a new opportunity. And so it was just you could have hung like a neon sign in the sky that said, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what brought me to Sudbury.
Oh man.
Was that job at
Amazing.
KFM, and for a variety of reasons, it just wasn't a good fit there, and at the time, anyways, and I was there for about 1.5 years, and then eventually was looking for work again in radio, and that's how I ended up at 91.7. So it's a crazy story and a crazy journey. I don't mind sharing that I'm a believer in that sense, and like I said, that's how I was raised.
That's awesome.
And it's super important to me. And it's a part of who I am as well, and I think it's kind of my foundation in my life, and
cool.
And that's where, everything you might see and hear. Not that I'm a perfect person or anything.
Sure. Yeah.
It's my foundation to who I am, and so. But yeah, it is a crazy part of my radio story too. Of like, man, I forgot I worked.
It's like
that was
and that was like a stepping stone to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like without it wouldn't have.
Yeah,
Oh.
and so I'm super grateful for that time.
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful for that time, and
That's cool.
but like I said, it just at the time it wasn't a great fit because eventually my girlfriend eventually became my wife, and it just wasn't a good fit for us, and I was looking for a change and had a point of kind of feeling a little burnt out as well, and anyways, yeah, it's a crazy story, but I ended up leaving, and then we actually found out we were expecting our first baby, which was like a hello surprise. and then I needed to work, and then back into radio I went, and in 91.7 they were hiring part-time, so that's
epic.
Yeah.
Nice, man. That's cool.
It's kind of a long answer to what happened in between North Bay to Sudbury, but that's a big part of my story as well, what brought me here. So
amazing. I actually have one of my good friends, Ben Kovla. He I can't remember where. I think at Glad Tidings. I think somewhere, but
Church on the Rock.
Yeah, he's doing his master's out west. I don't know, something. But he's now a minister.
Oh, cool.
Or a father. I can't remember.
He probably did a master's in theology or something.
Theology, thank you. I didn't want to botch it.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, master's in theology. That's what he has about a year or a couple months left. He's like just prolonging it. So
that's cool.
He's so he's doing that now, and I was just with him and stuff. So it's cool I appreciate it. I think there's an interesting discipline and understanding of the world when people have those beliefs. From what I understand and what like I've talked to, and I'm a curious enough person, like personally, and some people will go hard against it, some people go all for it. I like to be curious about it, because I don't know everything. So it's tough for me to have like I want to understand how people get to a certain like belief. That's where I come in. I just want to understand it. I don't need to agree or disagree. It's like if the person's respectful and they do right by people, it's like, why? Who cares what they really believe in? Right? So it's like, oh man, you're a decent human. Awesome. Whatever you do is whatever you do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of been my understanding and appreciation for it, and the people I know that do believe are some of my favorite people. So
yeah, that's cool. And like I said, I have no
awesome.
it's a big part of who I am, and
amazing,
it's how I was grown, how I was raised, and like church, and as I actually have written down, I know you're going to ask me at some point, but like church family is a big part of my life, and it's just so important to us, like my wife and I and our family, and but yeah, like working at the Christian radio station, like most of my listeners probably wouldn't even know. There might be some actually that remember me from being on there, but it was such a crazy journey because I was there for a year and a half thinking like, okay, this is it, like this is, and then it just a variety of reasons, it just wasn't a good fit at the time. And like I said, I just decided to step back, and actually in that point in time I even debated leaving radio altogether. It was crazy, but then it was my wife getting pregnant, and I was like, I need a job. I need work. And then fast forward like 91.7, they were looking for a part-time weekend announcer. And I was like, I'll take it. And so I applied, I got it quickly, and one thing kind of led to the other, and I've been at that station for 9 years now, which is crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How do radio stations stay funded? Ads, I imagine, and sponsorships and stuff that. Like
where we are?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
obviously.
I just want to know how they make money as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
I mean, you hear commercials, right?
Yeah.
So,
so many people are listening to radio now that I think about it. I'm in my head, I'm like, there can't be that. There's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people that listen to radio, and I have such a strong belief in local radio. Like, we have such, it's such an amazing, unique platform, and I believe in it so very much. And some of the things we've been able to do, I have seen the impact on people, and been able to see firsthand of how it is such a staple in people's lives, the local radio. And it's true, there's often more people listening than we even know, and then when we even think. But I'm super thankful for it, and I love it, and I'm passionate about it, and it does take a unique type of individual, especially to do morning radio too, because you
start at 5.
We're on the air at 5:30. My co-host and I, usually are at the station between 4:30, 4:45 ish or so in the morning, and then we're on the air together at 5:30. We do our thing. It's all live radio, right? So
let's go.
And then all the office work too behind after that happens, and meetings and planning and all that kind of stuff. So
how much of it is scripted, unscripted, planned before, off the cuff?
It's funny because that's actually one of the most common questions people will ask. They want to find out how much is that. I would say for our morning show, we have a little bit that's scripted. I obviously my news that I write, I'm the news guy. I write all the local news. That's obviously scripted.
Makes sense, yeah.
So, when I do the news at 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, 8, and 8:30, that's all written down. And I'm going off of a script. Beyond that, I would say maybe like maybe 20% is scripted, maybe. But sometimes we'll have certain stories that we're sharing with our listeners.
Yeah.
Where, because we're on opposite sides of the table in our studio.
Yeah.
But we share like a Google Doc essentially, where we can both see what's going on, and we'll both share stuff, and so we can both kind of follow along with where we're going, and in that sense, it's scripted, but a lot of the time it's I don't want to say ad-libbed, but we just kind of roll with it a little bit.
Nice.
But we also we have to be mindful of our timing, as you're doing too, right?
Yeah.
With a podcast, you have to be mindful of timing, and you got to factor in so many different things when you're, especially when you're doing morning radio, in my opinion. But
amazing. I'm always curious, like the structure that goes into it, right? And it's like, as much as this is scripted, where it's like we have talking points and things, and it's like, okay, we have 3 minutes here, we're open there.
Yeah.
And you read, and I can imagine anytime there's an ad or anytime there's a read where you have to be like, it's factual. You can't just like, I think it's about 83%. It's like, well, no, you can't. It's gonna be warm today. It's like, no, you have to be spot on with certain things, right? You mentioned a few seconds ago about people and impactful, and I want to kind of dive into that. You've met and sat down and talked to countless people, I can imagine, right? More than me, even, which is a lot. And I want to know anybody that stands out as who's had like the most impact or crazy story or something that stands out to you. It could be an impact on you, an impact they've had in the community, that stood out to you, something along those lines that comes to mind.
Man, it's interesting. Actually, did I write some of that down? Thought I did. Maybe I didn't. But I mean, obviously, I've certainly chatted with a lot of country musicians. We're in a country station, obviously, so a lot of country musicians have had the opportunity to chat with, which is really, really cool. But honestly, when you ask it in that sense, through the interviews and such, I will never forget one particular interview that we did. And there was two gentlemen, and they I still know one of them, actually, and they were a duo, obviously, and super talented musically, and they went by the name The Singing Soldiers. And it was really, really cool. And they had reached out, this is a few years back, pre-COVID, and they were two, I believe the one was in the Air Force, or used to be in the Air Force, and the other one was an Army vet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And what their vision was using music and their skills in music to go to legions and to places where people are struggling with PTSD, and use their music as therapy.
That's incredible.
And to really reach out and help. And so we had them in studio, and it was one time when I was actually brought to tears, I was totally caught off guard because I had no idea this was going to happen. And these two gentlemen, they were so grateful just to have a little bit of airtime to talk about what they were doing. And I guess they had a different skill as well, because while we were in studio, one guy came up behind me and presented me with a guitar. And the guitar actually had our Pure Country station logo engraved into it.
Come on.
And they had both signed the guitar as just a sincere thank you for having us.
Oh, man.
And I think it was just, I was not expecting that.
That's
at
intense.
all.
That's huge.
And when we go into an interview with whoever, there's always a preparation period that goes into it. You want to know who's coming in. You want to know what you're talking about. So your brain's kind of locked in that sense. And in that moment, I was not prepared to receive anything.
Yeah.
And they shared it with us. Now that guitar is hanging proudly in our Pure Country headquarters now. And it was so very cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, lots of celebrities, random celebrities that I've been able to chat with. Lots of amazing local people though here in the Sudbury community, and that's one of the many reasons why I love doing what I do. I love the platform, and it's not for myself. It's not. It's I always tell people that I'm just a normal guy who happens to talk into the radio for a living. But I love the platform, giving an opportunity to shine light on what other people are doing, because there are so many amazing people in our community who are having a profound impact on this city, who people just often will not hear of or know. And so any opportunity that I have to get those people in studio or to share their story, absolutely, I will chat with them. But for some reason, the Singing Soldiers really stood out in my mind, because I remember they were just so genuine about what they were doing and their mission. And then obviously I wasn't expecting any gift in return, and I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting any of that, and I never asked for it, but it was so sincere and genuine, and that mixed with their really cool mission. It was a really cool, and it was an interview I'll never forget.
Oh man. I love that. I see what you mean with the relating it to, I'm locked in, and then, I'm thinking, I'm like, hey, I'm going to, welcome him into the studio, whatever. And it's like, oh, I have gifts now. This is awesome. It takes you so off guard. And man, I can only imagine in that moment they're doing something huge, so much more above themselves.
Yeah.
And for other people, and for them to be like just so grateful. And
And
heavy.
And like I said, I've so many artists. There have been many moments where it's like, oh, this is really cool. I get to chat with, the country world. Some of my favorites are High Valley. They're a Canadian country group, and I had a chance to actually shuttle them around Sudbury.
Let's go.
When they were the two brothers, now they're just the one brother, and Brett Kissel. Extremely talented Canadian country artist. Actually had a chance recently, when he was in town, to shuttle him. I had to drive him from the radio station to his hotel, and he sat in the back seat. For some reason, I had my son with me, my 1-year-old son. I can't remember why. And Brett said, he's like, you got to take a picture of this. He's like, this is going to be a moment you're never going to forget, me hanging out with your 1-year-old son. And I was like, these are just some really cool...
He's telling you to...
Yeah. I was like, these are just some cool pinch me moments, you know what I mean?
That's funny, man.
In years past, one of my all-time favorite comedians is Colin Mockery.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to meet him when he did a comedy show. This is back when I worked in North Bay.
Oh, that's sick.
And Survivor Man, got to hang out with him for a little bit. And just lots of cool people on that kind of platform.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just love getting to meet people in our community who are shining stars, even though, the community might not be aware of who they are or what they're about or what they're doing. I love those opportunities and those interviews as well.
How do you find, you mentioned it a few minutes ago, how do you find the impact local radio has had on people in the community? Like just local radio in the community, right?
Local radio, man, it has such a profound impact. It really does. And I believe in it so very much. I've been able to see it firsthand. I've been able to see the impact firsthand. And I so firmly believe that, we have this opportunity, within our own city to make an impact and to use our platform. I could give you a bunch of really cool examples of things where it's really hit me. This is what local radio is all about.
Yeah.
This is what it is all about. We do a thing.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, please.
We do.
Absolutely. Your episode.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to help launch a few of our big fundraisers for the radio station. We have 4. We call them pillar fundraising campaigns that we do in a year. Yeah. And so in December we do a thing called the diaper drive-by. And so that started, man, this December will be our 7th year for that already. And I was there for year number 1. It started as a random idea with Trinette and I when we did the morning show together. And it was, I knew someone who volunteered at the Pregnancy Care Center. My wife volunteered there for a bit as well in Sudbury. Speaking of people who are shining stars in our community.
Let's go.
Folks who volunteer and work at the Pregnancy Care Center, serving, young moms, young families. And those who just can't afford to provide, right? Hats off to them. But it started as a random idea. Hey, do you want to collect diapers for the Pregnancy Care Center? Let's just give it a shot and see what happens. And in that year 1, we collected 60 cases, and we were thrilled.
Wow.
We were thrilled.
Jeez, man.
And the next year, we're like, well, that was pretty fun. That was really cool. It was really well received by the community. We did it again, and we collected, I think it was 1 to 200 cases or something. It was the numbers more than doubled.
Yeah.
Fast forward, the numbers have only grown every single year, and now the diaper drive-by has become a staple in the community, and it's become a thing. It's become a family tradition for we. And I know this because I've had listeners tell me that it's a family tradition. We got to collect our diapers and wipes, and it's one of those things that we stand out in the cold. Yeah. We collect diapers and stuff, but and in regards to that, I'll never forget. I think it was 2 years ago. We set up in the new Sudbury Center parking lot, and we were out there collecting, freezing our butts off. and we were standing there, and it was interesting because we saw something a little bit unusual. We saw 4 or 5 vehicles park kind of further down the lot. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And we saw a group of 20 people get out of their vehicles. And I was kind of keeping an eye on them saying,
interesting,
what's going on here? And then we see a bunch of cases of diapers, and they all start walking as a group
Come on.
towards us where we were set up. We're set up over by the Swiss Chalet
Bro.
side of the parking lot. And I say to my coworker, Matt, who does our afternoon show, I said, man,
Let's go.
this could be cool. And they approach us as a group, and they say, listen, our uncle just passed away, and it's really important for us in his honor to give back to something. And so your diaper drive-by is now going to become our family thing,
Like the staple
that we do every year
on.
around Christmas time. And so there's been so many moments like that where I'm brought to tears, and I'm humbled, but I'm also so thankful that we have, the opportunity to give the community these doorways to also give back. You know what I mean? And yes, we have a broadcasting platform digitally. We work so close with our friends at CTV News, and they help us cover with whatever we're doing too. But my vision for the station and my hope is to always stay true to local and stay true to our community. For what we do, obviously, we play country music, so we'll play the best country music around.
Let's go.
Provide some fun, some entertainment, some contests, that kind of stuff. A little bit of news and information, but also stay true to our community. And we've been able to do that, which is awesome. And giving people an opportunity to give, this is the ripple effect, which I love. When you give people that opportunity to give, my hope is that it inspires people no matter where you are. If you have a radio platform, if you are a custodian, if you are working as a grocery manager at a grocery store, if you are a hydro worker, whatever, no matter where you are, you have a platform. You really do. Doing a podcast, you have a platform. Everybody's got a platform, and it doesn't matter what level of good you do. If you do some good and everybody were to do that, this community is and will be so much better for it. And so that is personally what I try to lead my team into thinking going into our campaigns that we do throughout the year. The diaper drive is just one of them. I mean, we do Camping for Cans for the Sudbury Food Bank. We've got every once in a while we'll do plasma donor drives. We'll encourage people to donate plasma. We've got Coats for a Cause, where we collect winter clothing through like the fall season. And there's one more. What's the other one? Diaper Drive? Coats for a Cause? That one. Oh, yeah, Carathon, actually, which is coming up. Yeah, Carathon, which also happens. We're coming up on our 5th year for that, too. Yeah. That's all in support of the hospice here in Sudbury, too. So
amazing.
All that being said, like I said, it's about the community. And the goal is, let's make this about the community. Let's use our platform. Let's do this to the best of our ability. And let's give the community an opportunity to rally within itself. Man. Because when that happens, and I get it, not everybody is able to give, and that's okay, but everybody can support.
100%,
even if it's just verbally, even if it's just through
talking about it,
not
sharing,
financially always, right? And so that stuff all goes so very far.
Because like you said, everybody has a platform, everybody has a voice.
That's right.
Word of mouth is huge. It's still one of the top, if not still number one way of advertising or getting information across from other people. Yeah. Man, that's do you like country music?
Well, it's funny, and I don't mind sharing it either. When I first started, I grew up with 4 siblings. Yeah. They all loved country music. I was the youngest of 5. They all loved country music, and so for the longest time, I wanted to be the rebel. Yeah. Be like, I am never.
Yeah, to spite them, No,
I want to be different.
Let's go.
Of course, where's my first job? In North Bay at Rogers Radio. I did the afternoon show on a country station.
Let's go.
And so right away, I learned to appreciate it. I learned to like it. I learned to love it.
Yeah, the people who do it.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I've only been in country music other than the little stretch that I was telling you about when I worked at the Christian radio station, which broadcasts across Northern Ontario. Epic. But then found myself back in country music on the FM dial in Sudbury, and honestly, I've really appreciated it, and so. I love I love 90s country, really love 90s country, but man, there's some good stuff. And I know there's controversial, is this country or is it not? But at the end of the day, there's some really good music that's coming out still this day and age, and people are talking about it and it's fun. I will always remember my first favorite country song was Travis Tritt, It's a Great Day to Be Alive. I don't know why. It's catchy, and when I first started working in radio, the words really stuck. It's like, it's a great motto to head into each day. It's a great day to be alive. There's always a reason to find greatness in each day. You know what I mean? And so
Start there.
Yeah, start there, and
It's a good baseline.
yeah, it'll help you through whatever speed bumps come along the way. So
amazing, man. Oh, that's awesome. If we switching gears a bit, if you don't mind, I kind of want to dive into question. What did having kids teach you that, or raising kids now, teach you that maybe you would have learned a bit later, or that fast tracked you learning, or something that you learned from them that you might not have learned otherwise? You reckon?
Ooh, man, that is a good question. Yeah, because we've got 4. Mm-hmm. And when we're recording this, we've got 4.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Good people need to have more kids.
Yeah.
Good people need to make more good people.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, we got 4, and you know what? We love it. It's busy. It's crazy. It's unpredictable.
I can only imagine.
Our dinner table is hilarious because every night you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. And the ages right now, actually, my daughter just had her 9th birthday yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
The day before we're recording this, which is
amazing.
cool.
Happy birthday to her.
Yeah, so she's 9, and then I have a little boy named he's 7, and then my daughter, she's the driveway baby, the famous Sudbury driveway baby. Yes, born on the driveway. She's about 5, and then our youngest, he'll be 2 in August. That is a true story, by the way. But what have I learned? Honestly, my wife and I laugh about this often.
That,
we could say absolutely. I don't mind sharing. It's a crazy story, very real. I would say the biggest thing, if I can give 2. The first one, I always thought I was a patient person. But then having kids, it really made me aware that when my patience is tested, maybe I'm not as patient of a person as I thought I was. And so I've had to work on that. I mean, I've been a dad for a little over 9 years.
Amazing.
But that's one major thing that I've learned since being a parent is like, wow, I thought I was patient. I am probably not as patient as I thought I was.
Man, my last guest said the exact same thing.
Yeah, but also, man, kids are amazing. They're so fun. And it's funny, people, other than the radio questions, people often bring up, because they know that I have a bunch of kids. I call them the mini Coops. And people ask me all the time, they always say, how do you do it? Yeah. How do you do mornings? Like, how do you do all these things? And then you're in the community and all this kind of stuff. How do you do it? Well, they are also my motivation in a sense. Yeah. Kids bring such a sweet perspective on life, such a fresh, unfiltered perspective on life. And my kids, I really want to invest into them and build into them. It's important to be a present father for them. Yeah. I just see such value and importance in that. And also my wife and I are just a good team. We are a fantastic team. It's not just, for us anyways, it's the way that we roll. It's like, we have to be a good team. Mm-hmm. And we've got 4. It's a busy house, right? But so the first thing, like I said, patience. Second is like perspective on life. Because awesome. As an adult, when you get into the workforce, you get into whatever, life just starts throwing things at you that when you're a kid, you just don't see. Right. And you don't know. But kids just bring this fresh, kind of raw, real, unfiltered perspective, and hilarious perspective sometimes that it just reminds you to just sit back a little bit, just slow down. And sometimes I need to tell myself, like, Bryan, Coop, slow down, man. Just slow down. Just take it in. Yeah. Take in the moment. Like, don't worry about this stuff. Like, take it in. And with my kids, it's like, you know what? My son wants to play mini sticks with me. The other stuff can wait. I'm going to go play mini sticks with my boy. Nice. My daughter wants to go to the Splash and Go Adventure Park at Ramsey Lake. Yeah. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Nice, So, perspective, man. Kids just bring so much of it. And, they bring challenges, too. Oh, of course, And, it's an exhausting season when they're small. And actually, we're filming this on a Friday. And just this morning, I was actually at work super early because my son was up all through the night as well. And so that kind of stuff, it's, yes, it's tough, it's exhausting, but it's also your child. And when you're investing into anything, there's going to be difficulties. There's going to be challenges, right? But it's all part of it. I know what I signed up for, and I'm in for it. And fair. So, perspective and patience, absolutely. Yeah, and just energy. They bring energy, man. Good. They bring energy. That's for
awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so fun. Yeah. That sounds. Every time I talk to people about what they're learning from about like their children and stuff, and the things I've seen, like what I would consider successful parents do. And you can judge a successful parent based on like how they behave as a young kid, I think, right? Because they don't know better, like you said, raw and filtered.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the kid will do what the kid believes is the best thing to do, or like he'll tell on you, or like, you know, it's nothing gets by them.
Yeah.
My old business partner / friend of mine, him and I were talking about it the other day, and he's like, dude, I always, like you said, play with my kids.
Yeah.
He's got 2 twin 8-year-olds.
Wow.
Boys, yeah. So gong show.
That's busy.
As you can imagine, gong show busy, but he's like, he'll work a 10, 12-hour day, or like he'll wake up, put them on the bus, send them away to school, and then when they come home, you know, he's still working, but he'll come home for dinner, make the dinner, and then if they want to play basketball for 2 hours after, he's playing basketball. He'll work a 10, 12-hour day and play basketball with them for 3 hours before they go to bed.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, he's like, dude, you have to do that.
Yeah.
If you don't, like, they're going to end up, like, I don't even know, like, messed up in some whatever way, right? But his whole point was, play with your kids.
Yeah. It's
so
time,
cool.
man. And, you know, it was interesting. Huge. Like, before my wife and I even started having kids, like, and when we had our daughter, people would always tell us, oh, you know, the times when they're little, like, it'll go by like the snap of a finger. And we always understood it. We're like, okay. But now, like, our oldest is 9. Next year, she's going to be double digits. She's going to be 10. And now we're understanding, like, time flies. And it's funny that you asked that, too, and you said it, because my wife and I were just talking about that last night about, like, you know, we both like a tidy house, but sometimes, you know, you just gotta surrender that stuff and be like, you know what, my daughter or my son wants to hang out with me, and that's a sweet thing, because that's also not gonna last forever. You know, I mean, they're gonna grow up, they're gonna get older, they're gonna want to do other things and hang out with other people, and so, you know, more time spent with the kids. You might have to surrender. You know, our kitchen is a disaster right now, or the basement is like,
stay that way.
What happened in the basement? But that's okay. That's okay. But man, they are. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it is funny. Awesome. People often ask, like, how do you do it? And it's like, you know, sometimes it's a survival. Sometimes it's a survival day, an extra coffee day, as I might say. But I don't complain. And it's. I don't ever mean to.
Signed up for, you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Naps are a good thing for me. But like I said, I would not change it for the world. And I know sometimes there can be a negative connotation with having kids. And for me, it's not so much at all. It's,
amazing.
It's not at all. And my wife and I, like I said, we're a good team. And it's key for us, as we have to be. And she's a rock star. She's a rock star at home, and
shout out to her.
And she works too, and I work.
Amazing.
And I also do like the Sudbury Wolves play-by-play, so that's one of my passions. But yeah, man, it's love my kids to pieces. So
that's awesome. Tell me about this driveway story before we move on, conclude, whatever.
The driveway baby.
I'm really intrigued.
The famous driveway baby story. Oh man, and I have told this story so many times, and I love telling it too. Because my wife and I, we have 2 very different perspectives, obviously.
Amazing. Yeah.
I want to preface this with, my wife is a labor and delivery nurse at HSN. Nurses, all the admiration in the world to our nurses in our community.
Yeah,
nurses
shout out, you name it.
They are unsung heroes, absolutely. And I always knew they were awesome. And then I married one. I'm like, oh my word, nurses are.
You're actually a hero.
You guys are awesome. You gals are awesome. Yeah. Anyways. My wife is a labor and delivery nurse, and I preface this story with the fact that she knows everything and all things about childbirth. So
epic.
Our little girl, she was our third, and my wife wanted to basically do as much of the labor and all that, the hard work at home as she could, you know, in our comfort zone of our house. Which I was fine with. I was like, just, you know, whatever you need.
Yes, honey. I got you. Just tell me.
I will be there. I will be there with whatever you need. I will drive us to the hospital whenever you need. You just give me the green light.
Say the word.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah. Amazing.
And so this is our third child. Mm-hmm. And they often say, you know, the second, the third, in our case, the fourth. Sometimes they can go quicker. Like the
process.
The process can be a little bit quicker the more children that you have. And anyways, my wife said it feels like it's time. We need to go to the hospital. Great, awesome. We grabbed our little to-go bag. Now, also with our house where we used to live, there was stairs from our living room went down to the front door, and then from the front door there were stairs down to our driveway. Yeah. And so my wife, just kind of picture her, she walked down the stairs to the front door, down to the driveway. I go right to the van to open things up, and she stops. And she says, the baby's coming. And I look back, and I said, what? And she said, you need to call 911. The baby's coming right now. I need to lay down. She's standing on our driveway. This is a true story. And so this is about 6 o'clock in the morning, if I recall, July. So thank goodness for the summer, by the way. This would have been awful in the winter, or more awful. And she's saying, the baby's coming. I need to lay down. And so now I'm like, what? Now we are super lucky because in that moment, my wife's mom was visiting and she wanted to be there when this all happened. And then my mom was also there too. Yeah. And so we had...
That's a good thing.
That was a good thing.
Okay.
That was a great thing.
Good.
No, we're also super blessed. We're like, my wife's family and my family, we all get along. We hang out often. We love each other. Sometimes,
I'm happy to hear it's
we
not
hear
the
opposite
case.
stories all the time.
Great.
So there's my wife
who
says I need to lay down on the driveway. I'm by the van wanting to drive to the hospital, not understanding what's going on. Yeah. And then my wife's mom comes out, and we have 2 other kids who are sleeping in the house. And so our process was we had a babysitter who was coming so that we could all go to the hospital together.
Amazing, yeah. You had a system in place.
We had a system.
Perfect. Yeah.
Ready to go.
Let's go.
And now it was fast forwarding. And so then my wife, she said, I need to lay down. Yeah. And so she did. And she laid down, and the long story short was this all happened within 10 minutes.
Imagine driving by.
Yeah.
You're just like...
Yeah, like, what? And so my wife, she had to lay down, and I ended up kind of like squatting behind my wife, holding her under her arms, so that way she wasn't, head on the driveway. Of
course.
And then we had 911. So again, speaking of shout outs, 911 dispatchers are phenomenal at what they do. They're amazing. Yeah. The crazy part of this story, there's so many crazy elements to it.
This is the crazy part.
Is my wife, and I will never forget this, she entered full out nurse mode. She entered nurse mode, and she's the one who's about to have a baby on our driveway. Between my wife and the 911 dispatcher, they are coaching me and my mother-in-law in what's about to happen.
Stop. And your wife, the dispatcher.
And so my mother-in-law is on the receiving end. And so she ended up catching the baby, and my wife is telling her what's going to happen, and the baby might look a little bit like this. Here's what's going to happen. You might not hear a cry at first, and she knows everything about labor and delivery, right?
As the baby's
coming,
bro.
And during this process, I am holding my wife. 911 dispatcher is talking to us as well.
Yeah.
Ambulances are on the way. We can hear the sirens. My mom is our runner, bringing blankets outside.
Yeah.
And the baby was born on the driveway, which was crazy. Paramedics arrive. Speaking of shoutouts, paramedics are phenomenal.
Amazing.
They're amazing. Yeah. Unsung heroes in our community. I know quite a few
100%.
paramedics. They're amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. They get there. Baby's already been born. And basically, we eventually got to the hospital. But there are so many things about that story that could have gone worse, that could have gone wrong. Like, honestly, the birth part was actually everything was fine. And my daughter was completely fine as well. But it's like...
Amazing.
Like, not to get into too many details, but when a baby's born, they have to clamp the umbilical cord. We're on the driveway. And so they needed something. We used a shoelace. That's
no way.
Very true part of the story as well. Yeah, and so we ended up taking...
hey, man, resourceful, right?
Being resourceful, yeah. And so that is kind of a nutshell version of the story, but there was 2 ambulances that showed up, and we didn't know why at the beginning, but we thought maybe one was for me because I was hyperventilating.
You're like, I almost had a heart attack.
Yeah, well, I was hyperventilating, and like I turned into like protective papa mode, right?
I love it, yeah.
Where I'm like, my wife is over there, I can't do anything about it. There's my baby who is on my driveway. And I'm like crying.
That's amazing.
Scared, but also, and then our babysitter shows up.
Overwhelming
and is
experience.
Like, what is going on? And so, we ended up getting to meet the 911 dispatcher as well later on, which was awesome. We got to bring her a gift, and that was a really cool experience.
It was your third kid, you said.
That was our third, yeah.
How long ago was this?
That'll be 5 years. In July, it'll be 5 years.
Do you remember the name of the 911 operator?
Oh,
I only asked because I know a couple. That's why I was going to ask paramedics, but I was just curious.
I don't remember what her name was, but she was fantastic. Yeah. We actually got a little gift from the dispatching people, a little onesie, little baby onesie, and
oh, that's cute.
And actually, just recently ran into one of the paramedics that helped us that day.
No kidding.
Luke, who teaches at Collège Boreal. And
amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. So, crazy story. Wouldn't want to go through that again.
No.
Wouldn't want to do it that way.
Sound like it. Sounds like a lot all at once in a short time.
Yeah, but
did you say 10-minute experience?
That all happened within 10 minutes on the driveway, and then eventually we were front page in the Sudbury Star as well. So they're like, "This is a crazy story. We need to run that story." But I still get people 5 years later asking how the driveway baby is.
Amazing.
Or if I'm with her in the community, they'll say, "Is that the driveway one?
Her?
Is that the driveway one?"
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Jeez, man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you before we kind of shift into like my concluding segment, I want to know, you don't have social media, or you do? Like, you have a Facebook account and stuff like that. Like, you're on like I'm assuming you have control on like the Facebook for Pure Country and the Instagram Pure Country and stuff like that. But I imagine you don't have like a public figure type social media. So I'm wondering why. Like, what was the? You talked a bit before about it being intentional, but I'm curious why. If you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's funny because I do actually, because I have my own Facebook page, my own personal Facebook page. Yeah. Instagram, to be quite honest with you, I still struggle to understand why Instagram exists.
Yes,
I know that might be.
I love it.
Ruffle some feathers. I just don't get
Light
it. Maybe it's because I'm an old soul. I totally am an old soul, but but I also get it. It's also where a lot of people are, and I'm in the broadcasting industry where 99% of what we do. No, sorry, 100% of what we do is connecting with people. Yeah. And that is where people are.
Yeah,
it's another way. So I needed to kind of teach myself, okay, this is why people are on Instagram, and I needed to have an account. I barely post on my own, to be honest with you. And then I have my own personal Facebook page, but I have like the security settings locked down big time. Amazing. And I just, I don't post a lot of my kids or anything like that, and that's also intentional. Yeah. It's 2024, and it's just, I don't know, you just got to be careful. Know. You just got to be careful, and that's my own personal opinion anyways, but... I'd probably be
the same way, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, again, that's just personal preference. That's not a judgment against what anyone else does. That's just own personal preference. And also some wisdom that has been given to me from individuals in the past. Yeah. People who have worked like in kind of in the security kind of sector of just be careful. Just, you got to be careful.
Yeah, it's easy.
And so most of it is personal preference. I'm on, it used to be known as Twitter. It's now X. That one is, I find kind of fun, especially because I'm in the sports world a little bit too. But that's pretty much it. And I do have a Facebook page. It's called Bryan Cooper FM. Nice. And I created that a couple years ago. And again, I often forget to even post on it, to be honest with you. But it is still active. It's still there. Amazing. But to answer your question, honestly, yeah, it's just mostly personal preference. A little bit of... I mean, there's an element where I feel like most of the things that I will post when I'm out in the community is on the Pure Country Facebook page.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because that's what I'm doing. That's usually it has to do with the radio station, or it's engaging with our viewers and our listeners there.
Larger community there, you can.
Yeah, and people know who I am, and I've got to know our listeners really well too, and there's just some things I'm like, in years past I would have completely posted like all over my own pages and stuff, but now I just. And maybe it's because I'm 36 and it's just, I'm an old soul, or I'm like, why would I post that? Because once it's out there, I'm like, you know what I mean? And so that's just my own personal preference. And honestly,
I can appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, when it comes to posting too, if there is ever anything that has to do even with our kids, I will even run it by my wife. Just to say, not for like permission, but also just to be like, hey, I'm thinking of posting this. Like, do you think it's okay?
What do you
so
think?
I don't. It's just, again, it's personal preference, and it also protects them.
Yeah,
but
her
also
kids as well. So
it's her kids, and so she gets it. She appreciates that too.
Like you said, a good team.
Yeah, we're a good team, and honestly, everything. Yeah, absolutely. And so we have a really good communication about basically everything.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's huge.
It mostly comes down to personal preference. Again, not a judgment against anybody else who does it any different. And you know what? If you like to post post a million things, then that's cool.
Go for it, yeah.
I'll go for it. It's just for me and for us.
Yeah.
We do things a little different that way. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Right on. I like it. I
Yeah.
like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
To kind of conclude, I have like a bit of a segment I've adopted from another show. I kind of want to change up the last little bit, but I like the first two parts of it. So, you're a well-spoken, articulate guy, so I imagine you read as well, or here and there, or have read in the past. But I'm curious. 3 books, 2 people, 1 lesson to kind of conclude everything and wrap up. So the 3 books that you may have enjoyed or people should read if you're not an avid reader or whatever, or audiobooks, or 3 like podcast episodes, they could be stuff, whatever. Or 3 stories if we don't need to go books. 2 people that have either had, impact or influence on you, and then 1 lesson to kind of conclude, wrap everything up that we talked about that people you want to leave us with.
So what was the first one again?
3 books.
3 books.
Or stories, whatever.
3 books of 3 stories.
2 people, 1 lesson to include.
And it's interesting because reading, I enjoy reading. I find it hard to sit down and read.
Yeah, I
just
can
because
imagine.
life is busy, but also I just, because of the way I'm wired, I always like to be doing something. And so I actually find it hard to sit and sit and read. And I have to be intentional about it if
tough.
I am going to sit and read. But I also know that it is so good for your brain.
Oh, it's crazy.
It is so good for your brain to
And books
read.
are free, and there's so much, or cheap.
Yeah.
Hey, some are free, but they're everywhere, and there's so much good information in them. So.
Yeah, it totally is. And so there's, I can think of, in regards to books, I remember, thinking in the past, and it was, I love biographies. And this is going to sound totally random, but I remember the one biography, that's the right word, right? Biography?
Yeah.
I'm in post-mortem show brain here, so
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said I was being articulate with my words. But are you familiar with Dog the Bounty Hunter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. His biography
Yeah?
is actually very interesting.
Really?
Yeah, his life story is actually
Dog the Bounty
super
Hunter.
interesting. I know you probably did not expect to hear that.
No.
But I remember reading that.
Not even a little.
Like,
That's awesome.
it was like 15 years ago. I can't remember how many years ago. But for whatever reason, his story and his perseverance, and he's gone through some crazy stuff, just really, 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 really stuck with me, to be honest with you. But
That's awesome.
Yeah. In regards to stories, I mean, yeah, I love a good biography. I mean, we talked about me being a believer as well, and so I don't want to be like stereotypical Christian guy, but honestly, the Bible is my most important read, to be honest with you.
Heavy read.
It can be a heavy read, you know what I mean?
On your skill level of understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of people who work in that, in that, I don't want to use the word industry, but honestly, I'm being truthful. Like that's kind of a foundation to my life, and I try to be in that almost on a daily basis if I can.
Count it for sure.
That's a huge one. And then a third one, a story. I love stories. I'm a man of stories. I really am. I guess maybe it could be like, because I'm a big hockey nut. I'm a big hockey guy. I do play-by-play for the Wolves, and I'm a, no judgment please, I'm a diehard Leafs fan.
Nice, let's go.
I always will be.
Amazing.
They could lose every game of the season, and I would still be like, yeah. I love reading. It's not like a specific story, but I love reading kind of behind the scenes stories of some of these players and what they've gone through to kind of get to where they are in their careers.
Yeah.
And so while I'm finding it hard to think of a specific one, that's more of a generalization, but I love the behind the scenes hockey stories of NHLers that I grew up watching and kind of seeing, where they came from, how they survived in the league, and then post league as well, and how they've really kind of maintained their life and what they've kind of turned to and that kind of stuff. I find that stuff super fascinating.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Before we jump to the 2 people, 1 lesson, I did want to ask, because thanks for reminding me, I'm curious about it. How'd you get the play-by-play for the Wolves job? I know we're kind of
no, it's okay.
But
so that one, and I will say, so that is like a passion of mine. It really is, and it's turned into I love it. I love it. And I love my regular job too. Yeah. This is a different branch of broadcasting for me. That's completely different than what I do Mondays to Fridays.
Nice.
Between 5:30 and 10 on the air on Pure Country, and And years ago, I always had an interest in doing hockey stuff. Joe Bowen, who's the legendary voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was like my guy who I looked up to. I actually had a chance to meet him.
No, come on.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet him a few years back on 2, maybe 3 different occasions. Yeah, one time was in North Bay because his son actually had a short stint with the Sudbury Wolves. And then the second time that I got to meet him was I went to a Leafs game with my mom in Toronto, and I had his phone number, and he said, let me know when you come, and I'll show you where I call games from.
Bro.
Up top in the Leafs arena, which was
come on.
I was just losing it, right? But the first time
that's the dream.
That was well the first time I met him was at a hotel in Toronto, and like I said, his son was he had a brief stretch with the Sudbury Wolves, and his son was called up. And Joe lives in Toronto, and he dropped him off at the hotel, and I was just kind of hanging out in the lobby, and I looked, and I said, that's Joe Bowen. Now, I don't have very many moments where they call it you get stars in your eyes.
Yeah, you're like...
And I just I'm like, I'm going to kick myself if I don't go talk to him.
100%.
And so I did, and I had the chance to chat with him for about 5 minutes, and I've had a chance to interview him a couple times since, too, and he's given me some career advice and play-by-play advice. He's critiqued my play-by-play work, which is really cool stuff. I will hang on to for forever, but to kind of bring it back full circle, I had always had a passion and kind of an interest in at least giving that a shot. Yeah. And a good friend of mine who I did a morning show with many years ago, actually on the Christian station, his name is Mike. He did some stuff for the Wolves on Eastlake TV, and he knew that I was interested as well. And he said he was actually moving out of town, and he said, "Hey, I know you're interested in getting into this with the Wolves." He said, "I'm leaving, and they're looking for a guy to fill in. Do you want me to give them your name?"
Oh, that's cool.
And I said, sure. Yeah. And so that basically was my in. And I started just doing a little bit of play-by-play here and there. Honestly, I would go to the arena. I had a microphone and one guy with a camera, and I would just do kind of like the bare bones, the basics. But that was my first ever exposure. That turned into me being the full-time. I traveled with the team for 2 full years, where I did play-by-play at home and on the road. And then I've just, I've had such a great relationship with the team, and they've been very gracious to keep me around, obviously. And with kids, I can't travel full time right now, obviously. But
and they get it.
And they've been so good to me to they allow me the opportunity to still call games at home. And
that's awesome.
It is honestly a passion of mine, and I love it.
Yeah. So the idea that you can get paid and have fun doing it is.
Well, and I don't do that for the money either. Like that is for the experience and for the opportunity.
Right on,
And it's not for the money at all. It's just
that's even better.
About. Yeah,
that's even better. Yeah, that's really cool.
That's a long story to how I got that.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Does that would he be put in one of the 2 people that you'd say has had like a really big impact, influence, taught you something?
Well, I guess career-wise, like in
we can go career and personal.
Yeah, I guess in the hockey play-by-play world for me, I guess he has been like I will never forget being able to meet him and meet Joe, and now I actually have him in my phone, and I know him. Well, it's not like we chat regularly or anything, but I will always super value the wisdom that he gave me. And earlier when we were chatting, I wanted to say too, like if there's someone watching, always, if I can encourage anyone, no matter what you're working towards, be a sponge. Always be a sponge. Yeah. Be willing to learn. Be willing to soak in wisdom from someone else who's maybe a little bit further along than you are.
Amazing.
Be humble enough to say, you know what? I got ways that I can grow and improve. Always have that mindset.
I love that.
And so even for me too, I'm constantly looking for ways, even in my play-by-play, to do things different and to do things better. And he gave me some really great words of advice. And so in that realm of things, I'll always appreciate. That's awesome. I'll always appreciate what he had to say and just take the time with me as well. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have now one kind of person in your like personal life that's had a big influence, or somebody you want to tip a hat to, and then we can close?
Oh my goodness, that was tough. I mean, I want to say
we can go obviously like family and stuff. Kind of self-explanatory to be in there.
Yeah, because my mom, I'm super close with my mom.
Amazing.
I would not be. Like my dad passed away when I was 7, cancer, and my stepdad actually just passed away last year.
Come on.
Yeah, and so my mom, she raised me and my sisters, and I get
strong.
I could get emotional talking about my mom because she's one of the strongest people that I know.
Rock star.
She's been teaching for 46 years, I think. She's still teaching, going strong, but to kind of, she without a doubt is one of those people that I would not be who I am today
fits both.
without her in my life. But to kind of branch out of the family side of things. That's up to her though. There's one guy that I will always be forever thankful for in my life. His name is Dan, and going in, at the very beginning of our conversation, we talked about high school, and grade 9 and 10 they were not good for me. I was sad. I was unhappy. I did not have a lot of friends. He was a youth pastor at the church that my family went to. He reached out to me on a weekly basis, just to hang out. Just to, hey, come hang out. Let's go for lunch or something like that. And he did that regularly. Amazing. And he became like one of my best friends. Wow. A lot older than me. Yeah. And you know what? I look back at those like 2-3 years in high school. If I did not have a guy like that step in and really just kind of be a mentor for me, because again, I didn't, my dad had passed away, and I,
like male influence or something.
Yeah, and my stepdad I loved, but it wasn't my real dad. Right. Without Dan, I don't mind saying his name, without him stepping in and just being a positive mentor in my life and being a friend and just being there for me and hanging out. I could have gone in so many different directions. And we have stayed in touch ever since then.
That's awesome.
We used to do a yearly trip to go watch the Leafs play somewhere in the U.S. And we haven't done that in a while because I have kids and life is a lot busier, but we do stay in touch. I was just messaging with him the other day actually, and I will forever be grateful for that guy, because like I said, my life could have gone completely different. It could have. It absolutely could have, and because of his presence just in my life and him stepping in just to be a friend and to be a mentor, and I've been able to vocalize that to him too. Right on. There's so many people that have had just a profound impact, and one of my longtime friends in high school was the reason that I actually had a group of friends towards the end. Yeah, I'll forever be grateful for him. He's one of my longtime best friends, and he was the one who kind of said, "Yeah, come hang out with us for a little bit," in a good way. Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's awesome. I could talk for hours about people like that, but
man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
To wrap us up today, what to conclude or anything, do you have a lesson or a message, something that you want to get out there to wrap this up, to kind of bring together full circle what we talked about today, or anything you missed that you want to mention and make sure gets highlighted? I know you did a bunch of very important things, and I'm grateful for it. Just anything to kind of conclude today.
Well, this Sudbury community is awesome. This is the best, honestly, I would argue the most generous community in the north. I would say in the province, in Canada or whatever. Just from my platform, I've been able to see the community step up in big ways. I know there's a lot of people, they have a lot of negative things to say, and life happens, right? Things are going to happen, but if you can focus on the positive and focus on the things that are happening, it can completely shift your life perspective. It can shift your mind focus, which then also just is super good in redirecting your life almost, in a sense. But honestly, I feel like I was raised, I always think of 3 words. Actually, I have it written down actually. Humility, generosity, and gratefulness.
I was going to say gratitude's probably there.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have gratitude on a daily basis, and a good friend of mine actually, even I know that he keeps a daily gratitude list, 3 things every day that he's thankful for. When you have gratitude, thinking about things in basic life that you are thankful for, and you think and you ponder on those things on a daily basis, whatever those things might be. It could be something like, hey, got to make a new friend. Yeah, you know what I mean? Got to have a conversation with someone new today. Hey, the sunshine is amazing. Whatever it might be.
Warm out today.
Gratitude. Gratitude can have such a profound impact on your day, and honestly, long-term on your life. And I feel like gratitude can really feed into generosity, because when you're in a good spot in your head, you're like, you know what? You probably have more than you think you do. Yeah. And then giving what you can of what you have is also so good for your head. It's good for your heart. It's good for your soul. It is so good for you. And just humility, others first, yourself second, is never a bad thing. Humility, generosity, and gratitude. 3 huge things. If you can carry those, it's a good thing.
Man, I love that. I'm grateful you were able to come on the show today, man. I know you're a busy guy. We tried to do this
yeah.
in the past. You got a big family and everything, so I'm really grateful we were able to carve out time.
It was like a year, wasn't it, that we were trying to get this going?
Yeah, man. I know, like, between timing of seasons and, like, play-by-plays and jobs for both of us and scheduling, I'm happy we were able to make it happen.
Absolutely,
I'm
man.
really grateful. The conversation I was looking forward to it for however long it took for us to schedule it. So I'm very, very happy we were able to make it happen today, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for handling my yammering.
Right on. I love it, man.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Yeah, man.
Let's go.